It's a wonderful Sunday morning, and I'm here with Ingrid Nevar. Nevar?
Nevar.
All right. And we met this past weekend at the Galactic Informers conference. I had a great time there. This is the first time I'm like appearing in front of my wall.
It's such a great wall. Look at all those beads and stones.
Yeah. This is like 1/3 of the beads that I have.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And I just went to a bead conference last night.
My sister has beads like that.
I just went to a conference last night. I got bags and bags and bags of beads. Whoa. And so at the conference, I was over there showing off my creations of my little Ankh women. This one's a little pregnant Ankh, if you can see how fat she is. Look at that. Bam. And they have copper, and people call them organite, but they're definitely got like a lot of beautiful positive energy inside to help people with healing energy. And during that time, I got to, how did we even meet, Ingrid? I know I went past your table. Did I just butt into your business, or what did I do?
No, we butted into yours.
Okay, good.
So you and I made eye contact a few times in the conference, in the amazing Spiritual Galactic Informers conference. And I was like, powerful woman. I recognized you. I was so, quite frankly, overwhelmed in a great way the entire weekend that I was just I was like, I can't even, there's so much going on such deep levels and in so many dimensions that it was like visually, all I could do was visually take in more and more and more and more. And so I made eye contact with you a few times in passing. And then you were sitting with Disco Tina, and who my sister was so excited to meet. And she was talking all about, she was like, we'll know her by the disco balls. We'll know her by I almost bought some disco balls so that I could say, I feel you, I love you, you're awesome. So she saw Disco Tina, and you all were sitting on a few tables in sort of the lobby area, kind of spread out, and you all were sitting with some folks that I had met and exchanged contact information with. And so we just sort of came over and sat down just to like love vibes, because I think there was like rumor going on under the table that there was some stress for people and there was some tension for people. And it didn't really surprise me because we were all vibing so high that the density was bound to need to be seen. It was bound to come out. It had to come out to be seen. And so nothing negative about anybody who was experiencing that. It was more just about like, how can I lend support and just love on people to the best of my ability, because I've been through it. I'm on the other side of it to a large extent. I have faced my fears and still am facing the parts of me that I don't really want to look at, of course, right? It's an ongoing process of releasing density as we're moving through the densities. But that's what drew us to your table. And
I love it. I was almost thinking like, is that my cat? And then I was like, wait a minute, that's her cat.
Yeah, no. So it was so great to be able to meet you and to sit with you and to join you and to interact with you. And then, but I wasn't placing you. Like I didn't place that like, oh, right. I had seen the two of you and Disco Tina on Danny's channel when she did all of the women, when it was just like, I was just like, it's too many women for me. It's too much. It's too long. I'm going to attend. So I was able to attend to the whole thing in snippets. But it was, yeah. So I recognized you, and I was like, that's where I recognize you from. But I also recognized you because you just have such an amazing, positive love vibe. you're just beaming and standing in your power, and that's so beautiful.
We're
So
like Care Bears just. I know we were love bombing people. It was so much fun. And yeah, and then I was coming back with love bombs, bam, bam, bam. So it was so good. And I would say, oh man, I love this person. And my friends would say, I could tell. Like, I was just so excited. But I really, when I was just sitting there at the table with you and your sister, I was looking at you guys and your beautiful faces and your cheeks. And I just got through telling you, like, my brother would have sucked on your face when you, if you wouldn't have survived in our house. My cheeks used to be like really yellow right there because he used to just,
well,
oh my God, it was
I
terrible.
got my cheeks endlessly pinched when I was a kid. It was like it would like it hurt by people pinching our cheeks. It was just like,
Yeah.
no, leave me alone, no. Um, so, but yeah, that's they that yeah, those are
Oh my
we both
God.
got them. Everybody in our family has them. We got them.
So that's great. You how far did you have to travel for the conference?
So, I live in Massachusetts, and my sister lives in Rhode Island. She came the night before to spend the night at my at the amazing home that I'm caretaking. And so we drove it. We planned to drive 8 hours. It turned into like 10 or 11 to stay in Virginia.
Yeah.
And then from Virginia to Orlando, because of traffic, um, ended up taking us, I think, 12 hours. And then the return trip it took us 14 because there was an accident
Oh.
on a bridge, like going through swamp area. It was just two lanes, and there was an accident, and it was two trucks. And we were on the bridge for, I mean, not moving for a good 2 or 3 hours. So, so the ride home took a lot longer, and then we decided in Virginia, we actually stayed at the same place. And then we decided not to take 95 North. We went 81, and we drove. It was so lovely. It was just so lovely.
You must have went home on Monday.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah, when you incorporate work traffic into your yeah.
Yeah.
I like
So,
to drive at night. That way everybody's not rushing to go to work and my mom's like, "Why?" And they've gotten really mad at me, so now they don't even call me. They're just like, "This chick pissed me off. She wants to drive at night." And so they get really mad at me because because it's like it's dangerous, but it's way easier. So what even made you all come to the conference? Did you have something that you were you looking for something? Were you
um, I knew that I had to be there. I knew that I was going to get an upgrade that I needed that was important for me to get. I was most, I mean, and as a matter of fact, I only really sat down and spoke with two of the speakers, but the vibe from all of them, each and every one of them, was just so amazing. It was, I mean, my face was hurting from smiling so much over and like all day long. It was just kind of like, oh, it hurt. Oh, just like stop. Okay, stop. But don't stop. So I knew that I needed to be in the proximity of Alex Collier. I've been following him for a while, and he just is a beautiful human being, and enough cannot be said about the amount of service that he has with an open heart performed. And I just cannot send him enough love and light in gratitude for what he was able to do when so many people couldn't. And yeah, we just a debt of gratitude, of just so much gratitude and love for people who have been doing this for as long as he has, and people who came before him who are doing it longer. We have been laying scaffold for decades and decades and generations to get to where we are right now. And those of us who came before and came repeatedly have not had an easy journey to get us to this place. We are not done. The transformation is still happening, and the depth to which some people are still going to have to go is, it is what it is, but people still need to wake up. And it's not about we need to wake up more people. It's just about like, here's the journey. Here is, we've all worked so hard to be here, and everyone is here on purpose. No one is here by accident. Yeah. So I still, there's something inside of me that is still cautious about what I'm willing to share. Because what I was told when I was very young was really clear. I have experienced multi-dimensions my entire life.
Well, before you go any further,
Yeah, and I don't want to talk about that now. What I want to
okay.
share is much more recent, that I feel like is important information that may help a number of people right now that are dealing with the intensity and with the anger and with the fear and with the rage and the anxiety and the not happy place. Not saying it's going to bring you to a happier place, but
Well, I did want to interrupt you. I did want to interrupt you because when you say people of like mind, I cannot express how much me and you are in of the like mind, because this thing happens in waves.
yeah.
And 20 years ago, I tried to tell people, like, you can say, hurry up, people need to wake up. And it's like, you need to calm down, because whenever you woke up, somebody was waiting on you. 10 years before that, someone was waiting on them. In 2012, people were waiting. In 1980, people were waiting. In 1960, in 1918, this is what people have been waiting for a long time. People have seen it, and people have become so impatient right now that they're just frustrated and they're losing it.
Yeah.
Even myself,
Yeah.
approaching, when I heard about the new standard of the kids shots requirements, it was like the day the conference hadn't even started, and I was like, man, I was just in tears and upset, and I'm not going to go deep into that, but I was just like, I can't believe that people are being forced to do this right now.
But
And
it
other
also, if
people
you
are
think
freaking out
about it,
about it.
it makes sense though, in the sense that they are throwing out everything and the kitchen sink. It's not an accident that I said that. In distraction and desperate attempts to throw us off our grounded strength, to discombobulate us away from our center of power and away from our light. It's gonna keep coming up. And what's coming up is it's gonna keep cranking up. It's not done cranking up. It's gonna crank up more. And the more we can understand that it's a ploy, right? It's a ploy.
Someone
And
pushing your buttons.
yes, yes, yes,
What are you gonna do about it?
because who you are is light. Who you are is conscious fabric of universe. You are conscious fabric of universe. You are a fractal of Great Spirit, Mother, Father, God, Prime Creator, Source. You're a conscious fractal of Source. The illusion that we're playing in, right? The third dimensional illusion that we're playing in has been incredibly and is very dense, full of landmines of distraction on purpose to distract us. And it has been to enslave us, and it has been to feed off of us. But the more we understand, understand, not understand, don't stand under anybody. The more we understand, comprehend, vibe with our own light as a fractal of source, that when we sit in our power and when we love unconditionally, when we stand in our power, which is not to say ignore, it is not to say sit back and let anybody else do work for you. That's not what I'm implying. Because I do believe in source guided action. But action not from the upset, not from the anxiety, not from the fear, not from the anger. Anger is righteous. We have reason to be very angry, but when we act from that anger because of fundamental laws of the universe, in the third dimension, there's polarity, right? There are opposites. There's right, wrong, good, bad. As we develop our consciousness into fourth and fifth dimensional, sixth through 12th dimensional consciousnesses, we can access that. As we develop that consciousness, we don't need to be so reactive. We understand how things are playing out. We understand that if we are reactive, if our buttons get pushed, those are internal wounds that we need to heal. As we heal those, as we are present for our own experience internally, and we're able to hold ourselves and heal ourselves, we are able to be less reactive. We are able to see more of what's going on. But there's this whole piece of information that came to me in a way that I'm so grateful for when I was participating in an ayahuasca journey, in a ceremony. An unfolding series, pieces of information. And for me, the way that I access information is absolutely over series of information that usually come to me in dream time, but it also comes to me in deep meditation. It comes to me in certain times. I don't necessarily go looking for it. It comes to me.
So let me ask you a question, because we didn't really finish your introduction.
Okay.
Because we were just having so much fun because we know each other already, y'all. So exactly who are you and what do you do that allows you to be this wonderful being, Ingrid, accessing information?
I do a lot of different things. The main thing that I have done over the last, 20, 25 years has been sign language interpreting. I'm a sign language interpreter. I grew up bilingual. My parents from Europe, my parents and my oldest sister from Europe, moved to the States. That's another story. I'm not going to go into when and where. But they moved to the States, and I had a deaf neighbor. And so when I was learning English, watching Sesame Street, because English was forbidden in my home until I was almost a teenager, because my father was multilingual, and he understood and he actually wanted me to work for the UN. So he raised me to interpret, because he believed that that's what I was supposed to do. Or at least to the best of his ability, that's what he was going to have me do.
Not knowing you would become a universal or a galactic interpreter of information.
So I've been working as a sign language interpreter. And I came to interpret because I couldn't really function in the way that most people were functioning. I from my teen years through my almost late 20s, jumped from job to job. I wasn't having an easy time of it. I was having a really hard time, and I had my entire life just kind of been like, the fuck is wrong with these people? Oh my God.
Pretty much. Yeah.
like, can you not just be nice to each other? Why can you not just respect each other? Why can you not see the light of God in everybody's eyes? Why do you treat each other the way you treat each other? What am I doing here? How do I not do this again? I can't do this. I can't stay here. I can't be a mom. I can't do this. And so it was just a real, and I had a lot of help. I had a lot of help. I had people helping me navigate human beings.
Right.
Yeah. I was on public assistance for a little while because I couldn't function. I cried for weeks on end. The downloads that I got my entire life freaked me out, right? I was 4 and 5 and telling my mom, we don't have a lot of time.
Mm.
We do not have a lot of time. There is a lot that we have to do. And she was just kind of like, okay, you are the last of my 5 children. You are not like any of my other children. I don't really know where you come from. You do things that none of my other children do, and you say things and know things that none of my other children do. Which isn't necessarily true, but she was more open to it by the time that she got to me, because
Pay more attention. Yeah.
they went through a lot of heck with my parents, who both had major PTSD. Anyway, so I was on public assistance for a few years, and I went through retraining, and they supported me to become an interpreter. Because I was, I knew 3 languages, and it was something that I understood. And I had friends who were interpreters, and we would talk about interpreting, and they would always say to me, you think like an interpreter, you really should do this. You really have the ability to understand, comprehend that there is a concept, and there are multiple ways to explain that concept. And different languages do it in different ways. Different cultures approach that concept differently. It doesn't mean that any one is better or more right than the other. It really just means that it's a different frame of reference. But if you don't understand the frame of reference of a specific culture, it makes it really hard to translate accurately. If you do understand the way that those different cultures that you are working with, that have absolutely valid ways of seeing the world,
Yes.
because it is based on their history and their understanding of the universe and its dynamics and people. And there are ways that they've learned over time to make things work. And those ways are valid.
Valid. They need to be respected. Yes.
Yes. So friends who were becoming interpreters were like, you need to be an interpreter. And I was like, well, okay, all right. And they'll support me doing this. So they supported me doing it. So I went through training to be an interpreter in my late 20s. I had tried to do college on my own because my parents weren't going to pay for it. So I had to pay for it all on my own. Nothing was handed to me because my father was like, nothing was handed to them. They had to work really, really hard. And so that work ethic of, it was so hard to be on public assistance for me. I got so much flack from the people that I grew up with. They did not understand. They did not comprehend. They were full of impatience and judgment. And so I had to break off of them for a number of years to heal, not only from that judgment, but I literally battled demons as a child, and figuratively and literally, multidimensionally. And so giving myself the space to go through that training. So I did that for about 25 years. And in the last 15 years or so, I became one of the things that I had wanted to do other than interpret was to be a massage therapist, because it was something that I was called to my whole life. But that was not something that was going to be supported by the
Right.
people who were approving, right, me.
Yeah.
to live on 50 cents a month for a number of years while I did that. So um, I became an interpreter. I did that. And then eventually, and I still do that. And I love that. Though it is also not easy for me to play in the matrix.
Right.
So so that's not easy for me. So I went to massage school. Oh, well, that was later. Initially, I learned Reiki, and I only did that on family and friends and animals for a long time. It was not something, it's really never been something that I've earned a living from. It's just something I do. And then when I eventually learned massage and I incorporated energy work in my massage, after massage, I came across biofield tuning and using tuning forks. So I started that made so much sense to me. Frequency made so much sense to me. The things that I was learning about frequency made so much sense to me, and the amount of downloads that I got while I was working with frequency is really mind blowing. Frequently people would just be like, "How the hell do you know that?" And I would say things like, "Well, I don't know that. That information is in the field, right? So quantum physics, plasma physics is something that I've had interest in for a long time, but it wasn't like I was a science person growing up. I ran from science and math until I was an adult. And when my father passed, I went through a series of downloads and upgrades because that sort of karmic reason for coming in with that family was cleared. I went through a series of downloads that were so intense that I actually physically thought I was having a seizure. I was having seizures. I had 3 experiences where the first one was so intense I passed out. The second one was literally like in my mind I was like, okay, is this a seizure? This can't be a download. As somebody who's been experiencing what I describe as Kundalini experiences for most of my life, starting pre-teens through my teen years, through my 20s, Kundalini rising had always come up. It had never come down. So I went through a series of experiences where it was coming in and down. And around that time, I was working with a group of interpreters, and we were all also energy workers, and we were all also interpreting things of spiritual natures. So we were going to ceremonies and interpreting ceremonies for deaf people and participating in the ceremonies, which is why I was participating.
That's amazing.
Well,
Never thought
eventually,
of that. Yeah, for deaf people. Oh,
it was all volunteer. I mean, it was volunteer. And for me, what happened after a number of ceremonies was receiving information that I should not be participating in Mother Aya anymore. That what was solidified for me was that the experiences that I had using ayahuasca with guided shamans, skilled, trained shamans, was that, after the first couple ceremonies, I was like, oh, you know what, guys, this is the way I dream. Like, I've always kind of had access to this kind of information in dream time. So I don't know how much I'm going to be able to, and so to interpret a ceremony, you have to participate in the ceremony. So it got to a point where my body, the information that I was receiving was my higher self was saying, stop, you cannot do this anymore. Stop using this medicine. What you were meant to receive, you've received.
right.
And I had to honor that, even though there's a part of me that's like, oh my God, it was amazing. So what I had really wanted to share was the information that I downloaded in several ceremonies. Briefly, the first ceremony was a history of creation.
Mm.
I went in with questions. And the shaman at that point, I've worked with several different shaman. At that point, the shaman that I was working with was with me, guiding me through the entire first weekend of ceremonies, 2 ceremonies. He was standing with me and we were dialoguing throughout. And initially, he told me that my parents didn't have very much longer and that I needed to spend time with them. And so I did, I listened. But then it was a series of, we would go in and I would receive information and then we'd come out, because they were, the ceremonies were quite magical, but we were going in and going out. And what I was going in with, I would come out and he would say, "Now do you understand?" And I would say, "No, it still is, it's not okay. It's not okay. What has happened is not okay." And so we would go back in. And what I was seeing was a history of the universe that had to do with the void, grandmother spider woman, weaving universes into existence with gossamer tendrils of light. Creation of universes, multiple universes. I saw the history and the rise and fall of thousands and thousands of civilizations. I experienced them as if I were going through those lifetimes. What I saw, now here I want to stress that I don't know that I'm not trying to say this was me and this was my personal experience. It is absolutely feasible to me that I was just allowed to see through the eyes of people who were having these experiences to be able to understand something in this now moment.
And it's also recorded in our DNA, like whether it's our memory or not, it's traveled through, it's inside.
Yeah. So I saw mostly Aztec-like looking civilizations over and over and over again, stepped pyramids. I saw myself as a high priestess. I saw myself as being used as a breeding vessel for hybrids over and over and over again. I saw the rise and destruction of civilizations over and over and over again. The raping and the torture and the enslavement, so many times I can't count.
Did you understand the purpose of it? Was there?
Well, it is why I kept coming out, and he would say, "Now do you understand?" And I would say, no, no, I don't understand why. That does not explain enough. I understand what I'm seeing. I comprehend what I'm seeing, but it's not answering why. And so, yeah, I mean, there were times when I was taking over for Grandmother Spider Woman and I was weaving. There were times when I was participating in rituals that became really real to me. There were times when, being taken on craft, being impregnated, having the babies taken away, became looking very different, different types of experiences. And ultimately, it didn't really answer my question, but I saw amazing things in the first and second journeys, first and second ceremonies. I was sort of like, okay, a complete history of the creation of the universe according to Grandmother Spider Woman. And weaving. And it felt really sacred, and I was honored to see what I saw. In the next few ceremonies that I did, and this is over the course of 2 or 3 years, 2 to 4 ceremonies a year. Maybe it was my 4th and my 5th and 6th ceremonies. I was now working with a different shaman. No, hold on. Still the same shaman. So my second, no, I'm wrong. My second and third ceremony, same shaman. I really wanted to know why still for the first bit of information. So I went in and I went under. And I remember sitting and waiting for the medicine to take effect. And I was praying, and I was doing lots of Ho'oponopono, and suddenly I became aware of someone else in my body, in my mind, and I was sort of like, there's somebody else in my mind. What is, okay, all right, I'm being shown something important. There's somebody else in my mind. Okay. And then all of a sudden it was more than just feeling, and I was feeling like I was being lulled into sleep. And I was desperately trying to stay awake because I wanted to know who was there and what was going on. And so finally I started hearing the voice. And it was a female voice, and it was the voice of of one of the white reptilian queens. And she tried to lull me into sleep, and I fought her. And the more I fought, the stronger she became. And she was just like, Ingrid, come on. We have done this. How many times have we had to do this? Just let go. Let go and let me take over. And I was just kind of like, no, 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 no. And she was like, what do you need me to say to you? Like, how many times, how many thousands of times have we gone through this?
Oh my God. You know what this takes me to? Coraline.
So,
How the spider negotiated with Coraline, but your inner child already recognized her and was like, no, bitch, I'm not trusting you. Like, no.
so what I said was, I was like, no, but I was recognizing that the harder I was fighting, the stronger she was becoming, and the more tired I was getting, and the harder it was for me to think clearly. And so, quite honestly, what then ensued, I'm just grateful for my higher self. I am grateful for my higher self because my higher self took over, because my lower egoic self would never have thought of the shit that happened next, right?
That's
So
your question. So the reptile, was she revealed as a reptile, or was she still disguised as something else?
I saw her.
Okay, you saw her
I
clearly.
saw her in my mind's eye. I saw her. I knew who she was. And what happened in the kind of, she was trying to talk me into, like, she was trying to assert authority and take my body over. And I was like, no. And she said, and I had this experience walking into the ceremony with a group of women, right? There were a group of, I don't know how many of us there were that time. I mean, I could count them and tell you exactly, but there were at least, 8 of us that were walking, and I was walking with 2 or 3 deaf women and another woman who could hear, we were walking sort of in as a group down, but 2 or 3 people talking. And the ceremony took place at a horse ranch, and we were walking past a corral. And as we were walking, I just like, I was like, oh, there was one single horse in the middle of the corral. And I was like, oh God, can you guys feel that? And everybody was like, what are you talking about? And I said, can we just please, and I got everybody's attention, and I said, can we just walk over to the fence and like send that horse Reiki? Because can you feel how sick he is? That horse does not feel good. That horse is really sick. And it was so palpable to me. And so we stood there and we sent the horse love and we sent the horse Reiki. And then the horse like acknowledged us or whatever. And then we were like called, like we had to hurry up to get into ceremony. And so she said to me, she said, do you remember coming into ceremony with the horse? And I said, yeah. And she said she was trying to tell me that I was just like her, that I was a predator. I was just like her, but she was stronger and she was going to help me do what I couldn't do. So I was supposed to give up control and let her take over. And so she said to me, and I was like, no, I don't think I'm a predator. I really don't want to harm people. That's not who I am. I really don't want that. And she was like, yeah, Ingrid, you are. Do you want me to prove it to you? And I said, all right, prove it to me. And she said, so walking in, remember the horse in the corral? And I said, yeah. And she said, do you know how you knew he was sick? And I said, yeah, because I'm an empath. That's what I do. I desire to be a healer. I was sending Reiki. She was like, no, you knew he was sick because you were a predator. And that's how we find our prey. We sense the weak ones.
Oh, wow.
And I buckled and I started sobbing. And this is still emotional for me because the horror that made me feel, to think that I could want that's who I was, and that was why I was sensing illness, was so horrifying to me. It was so horrifying to me that I almost gave up. It was like the exact thing that she needed to say to me to get me to just go to sleep, because it was too much for me to imagine that it was true.
Oh.
However, what happened instead was that the first two ceremonies started to go through my mind. The first two ceremonies started to go through all of that enslavement and torture and rape and war and impregnation and destruction and enslavement of thousands and thousands and thousands of people across multiple civilizations, multiple universes. And what I tapped into was understanding in a split second how many times she had been able to convince me that I was evil. And the reason that she needed me was because of how powerful a healer I was. And she needed me to relinquish my power and give it to her. And because in a split second, I recognized what she had conned me into, how many times I had given up my own truth because I believed her lies, made me realize how powerful I am, and made me realize that she was a parasite that needed my strength. And what I understood about her, because I understand this about reptilians, is that they can't feel. The reason we are so powerful is because we can feel. Our ability to create is threefold. One of those things is lodged in our emotions. Our emotions are powerful manifestation tools, but it's just one of three. And because in a split second, that remembrance came to me, and I knew that she couldn't feel. She needed my ability to feel, which is why she needed my body. So rather than fighting her, because my fighting was making her stronger, I grabbed her and I pulled her into me. And I said, you want this body? then you get to feel what this body feels. You are a mother. You know what it's like to have young. How's this? And I brought her through the entire first ceremony of memories, the entire second ceremony of memories, all of that realization and how it felt. And for 1 second, for one split second, she felt something. And in that split second, I slammed her as hard as I could out of my body. And she was gone. However, the next round of diving in that one ceremony journey, the next level of diving in, her sisters, she had 2 or 3 sisters, they came to do battle with me to try to overtake what she had lost. And so I physically did battle. And I was like, talons were destroying my, like ripping into my body, but they didn't get in. The second night, and the second night of ceremony, the second night of journeying, who came to me was the king. Because she had lost control of one of his vessels. A vessel that was very powerful. And that second ceremony, the entire ceremony was doing battle with the king. And the conversation.
What do you mean by vessel? Vessel as in vehicle or vessel as in a container?
So my human body and my the soul attached to this human body. Okay. The soul the soul and the bodies that they are using and feeding off of. So he came to reclaim what she screwed up.
Yeah, the container. Yeah.
But because she actually felt something, she was like taken out of commission. Because she actually connected. I felt her connect to her young in a way that had her remember how to feel. It broke through something for her. So she was like taken out, and he was pissed. And he came to reclaim me. And he exudes that I have smelled this in my lifetime and I never knew what it was. He exudes a reptilian musk-like scent. It's a scent of it's a marking scent. And when I smelled him, I had the visceral realization of having smelled that before and not knowing what it was, but just it's like it's putrid. And to be
okay, honest, I was going to ask you, is it smelling purulent, putrefaction type?
It is a combination. It's musk-like and it's urine-like, and it smells like people who shed. I smell it in the shedding.
Oh, shedding. Okay.
I smell it in the shedding. Yes, it's perfume-like, it's musk-like, and mixed with urine and chemical. It's very chemically. Anyhow, so the battle with him was it was a mental battle, but it was also a battle of just again, my higher self took over, because I don't know in my waking conscious 3D self that I can think that fast. Initially, it was trying to control the terror that he was able to evoke in me. And then it was hours and hours of trying to talk sense into him, of saying to him, the only options you have are to retreat or evolve. You have no other options. There are too many of us here now. We are in the ascension, and you must recognize that those are the only two options you have: retreat or evolve. That's it. There is no other option. And he was just sort of like in this place of like, if you do not if you don't acquiesce, I will kill you. Like it's just really that simple. And so for me, I was fighting for my life. And what I did was to feign acquiescence because I didn't know how else. I knew that I couldn't fight him. He was too physically strong. He was too mentally strong. I didn't, I, you know, like, so that's what I did. I feigned acquiescence. And in that feigning acquiescence and pretending to be with him, eventually he let his guard down. And when he let his guard down, what I saw him physically morph. And I saw him physically morph out of that 19, 20, 23 foot tall, scaly, white, muscly reptilian with wings and claws and fangs. I saw him morph into this 2 foot tall, miniature, gnome-like being. And what I saw was that his power was all in projection. It was mental projection. So what I understood, and whether or not this resonates with anybody who's seeing this or listening to this or you or whatever, what I understood was that we have been conned to such a level because looking like their true selves, they had no power over us. The only power that they do have is one of projection. They are the beings who helped create the matrix that we have believed to be real. They are that powerful that they can manipulate our minds and make us see what they want us to see if we are under their spell. But the second we get out of that spell and we see their true selves, and when I saw him, I was like, and he shocked for a second, and then because I had seen him, it was a little bit like now I think of like Rumpelstiltskin, like if you know my name, I have no power over you, right? That kind of realization. But what I said to him was like, oh, now it's really over for you guys, because I am broadcasting what I just experienced. I am right now broadcasting across every dimension in time and space, backwards and forwards. We see you, buddy. There is no way that you can win. Absolutely no way that you can win. This is how the human race gets empowered.
I feel like being afraid of the minions, it sounds like.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
There's a lot of things coming through. John, I believe it's John Charles.
Jean-Claude? No,
John
Charles. John Charles. No, John Charles.
I watched his movie where he interviews his parents and he has the picture of the being, the reptile being, and it sounds a lot like the one that you just described with the claws and
Right. Well, I had seen it's not like so I want to say
that's his visual representation. So exactly.
it's a visual representation that I had seen before my journey.
Right.
So, yeah. So
and
yeah.
that movie is recent, so we know that's two separate. I relate the two. I'm like, you guys saw something very similar. So it makes me
Yeah.
I'm wondering too, when you were with grandmother Spider,
Yep.
Stephanie had a question. And what's going to happen is I'm going to record this, but then we're going to have to do like a Q&A after this where we discuss more about it.
Sure.
But especially the fact that, with your IO session, what made you even do that? What made you take that session anyway?
So I went because I was interpreting the ceremony.
Okay.
So
Would you have ever done it if you weren't being
I was
interviewed?
I was curious and had been wanting for years because a really good friend of mine, also an interpreter, had been going to South America, participating in ceremonies for several years. I didn't have the funds to do it. I
Right.
could I couldn't get myself there, so it required many years of because I had to pay for it. It's not like the ceremony was paid for me. It's not like I earned money
Still
going.
had to pay for it. Yeah.
I had to pay for the ceremony, and then I went and then I interpreted the ceremony, which was the most amazing experience ever. And I absolutely would do again. And I really, 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 really believe that we are moving towards a moneyless system, and we are understanding that the value is in what our gifts are and what we're giving and how we're participating locally and globally with our family and friends and with the communities that we live in and among. Like, that's where we're going. If we all could just figure out what it is that we're supposed to be doing and be doing that, and maybe take a day or two of doing something that we don't really love doing because it needs to get done in order for the community to survive and function. We all get to take turns doing, the shoveling shit. We all get to take turns, right? We all get to take turns doing that because none of us are better than any others. We are all fractals of God having a human experience. We are all in this ascension. We all together make each other stronger. We don't have to tear each other down.
Most definitely. I've definitely wanted to do AO. They call it AO or ayahuasca, and the location was Machu Picchu. They do it here in Orlando, but I just don't think I would have the same experience as I would if I went to Machu Picchu. Plus,
So
it just
I did it in the States. I did it in the
oh, you
States with
did.
shamans who came to the States
Okay.
and went and journeyed to multiple cities working with traditionally trained shaman.
And so what this does is it allows people to connect to the oneness that we all exist, and we can share, like I can talk to the trees and animals and actually connect to literally understand that we all are one. But then it also reveals what, questions in your mind about your own connection to the universe
And
and
it brings up your own shadow. It brings up the things that you really need to heal,
right. And
right?
then so here you are healing the synapses in your mind. So you're making this full connection. So once you made those connections, you were told like, no, you don't need to do this anymore.
Yes, I like because I was there in service.
Hmm.
I feel like I was gifted information because I was there in service. Yes, I participated, and so I got to access the medicine and experience the medicine, but I was really there in service. And so I feel like at the same time that in tremendous information was shared with me, I also had the opportunity to see the stuff that I needed to heal inside. That was that, and in many ways that's still happening at deeper and deeper and deeper levels. So so I would say to anybody who wants to experience ayahuasca, don't do it without a trained shaman. Do it with traditional support that understands the medicine, that understands Mother Aya is a consciousness that you are inviting into your being to help you see stuff about yourself that you can't see without her help, or that you haven't been able to see without her help. She is plant medicine.
Since you brought up the fact that trained shaman, would you say there's a limit on how many people should be participating in the ceremony at once?
I
Because
would say that that would be up to the shaman, that that's their decision, right? That um so I absolutely have an implicit trust in the universe, and
okay.
I know that what I experience, I'm meant to experience, and it's up to me to find the ability within myself to feel gratitude for the things that I experience that don't feel so good. Because
Yeah,
everything is a gift. Everything is a gift.
I see that. I can see that. I
So
did have someone else tell me like they felt like it was so many people that maybe the people in charge were not maybe in control because there was like a predator in the midst that, and
um
his shadow was like kind of working the room.
so the shaman that I worked with initially was very powerful, and
Mhm.
I was able to see who in the room were reptilian. And
Mhm.
there were lots of reptiles present, and what was interesting to me was that it was validating in the sense that, like, I could feel the resonance before the ceremony in people. I recognized a certain resonance, and what was affirming to me was like, oh, I felt that because they're reptilian. Oh, that makes total sense. Okay. So, but in the space that was being held, we were held, and the people that I was with, we were anchoring in light and helping the shaman hold the space. I was there to be of service, and there was a lot of darkness present, but it was present in a way that helped us not be for some of us, for me at least, it was not about, for me, fear. It was about seeing what was present, and taking direction, for allowing the shaman to do his job and to assist in any way that I could.
That's amazing. I'm glad you put it in that perspective because, yeah, so that means you basically were a part of the revelation. You're a part of the revealing of maybe these people don't even know that they're reptiles,
Right.
but then you're also in that experience helping the shaman by claiming positive space as well during this
By
thing.
by doing what I was instructed by him to do, and to be present, and to be respectful, and to be in my light, and open in the sense that, I mean, I was participating in the way that they set parameters, and I respected the parameters that they set because he was traditionally trained and knew what he was doing. I trusted his wisdom. And I trusted the wisdom of the ceremony, and the wisdom of, I mean, the ceremony and what he did and how he ran it was not his invention. It was a tradition that was taught to him through generations of understanding that if you want to see the other dimensions, you have the ability to do that. There are plant medicines that will help you do that. But if you go there with ego, you'll get ripped to shreds.
Mhm.
You have to be able to be present from a place of humility. We are not the end all be all. Like that for me is a huge human lesson. Our emotions are so intense, but if we allow our lower self, our ego, that I recently heard somebody say, this is not my idea. Somebody recently said, yeah, the ego is part of the false matrix that has been sort of plugged into us to keep us enslaved. Like it keeps us harming each other. It keeps us either in egoic, predatory, macho, like whatever, this idea that we get to control and make decisions for other people and not respect other people's sovereignty and freedom, and not see God in each other's eyes, right? For me, it's all about, like, am I wearing my God goggles? Am I wearing my God goggles? Because if I'm not wearing my God goggles, right, if I'm getting, generally speaking, what I understand about myself is if somebody pushes my buttons in whatever way, if it brings up anger or fear or anxiety or self-deprecation, whatever it brings up, whatever that button is, I recognize that I'm not wearing my God goggles, because if I am wearing my God goggles, I'm not reactive. I can see what's happening, but I don't have to react to it. I actually have a choice. I have a choice, or I just allow my higher self to throw my arms around my lower self and let myself have the tantrum. But I don't express it. I don't act from that, because acting from that, I understand the way the universe works. I understand that third dimension is about duality. Third dimension is about, right? This idea of, in a higher dimension, you understand that where you focus is what you draw to yourself. What you express and where you allow your mind and your emotion to perseverate, you actually create more of. Because like attracts like in higher dimensions. You understand that. In a 3D lower self, the opposite attracts. Right? This idea of opposites attract. Right? So you fix by noticing what's wrong. You fix by criticizing. You have judgment, right? But what you don't understand is from a higher plane, plasma physics, quantum physics, the last 110 years of scientific experiments, cutting edge scientific experiments. And again, this is not my idea. This is what I've learned. I'm mostly quoting a gentleman by the name of Mark Newkirk right now, who is a brilliant engineer, and mostly unknown on purpose. But like attracts like. So where you resonate, which is why people like Elena and Alex have said, when you resonate in 5D, you're really untouchable by what resonates lower than you. If you're experiencing something, it's because there's something inside you that resonates there.
Right. That wants to settle there. It wants to settle there. Yeah, exactly.
But the trick is understanding that in every moment you have choice. You actually have the ability to slow time down, be in a 0 point, and recognize that every single moment has every possible outcome in it. Where you lean, how you react, creates that outcome. So if I react from fear, as opposed to allowing myself to feel the fear and move through me, because the emotion is just kind of like moving along in a wave. If I can just let that wave go through me and be felt by me, I came in to feel this stuff. I incarnated to experience the third dimension. It's not about not feeling the bad shit. It's not about pretending that it doesn't exist. It's not about willing it away and not looking at it. It's about recognizing that it has a function and not rejecting the function, right? You're angry because your boundaries have been violated. That's righteous anger. We are angry that children have been used as a food source. There's nothing wrong with being angry about that. There's nothing wrong with the anger, but it is acting from that anger that actually ends up harming you. It harms you, not them. So
people won't understand why I'm smiling so hard, because you are on it, you're preaching and you're talking, and I'm like, I had to let you just go and go and go, because you're saying everything that I think and that I feel. And you're telling the lesson that you are here for this shit. You're not here to avoid it. You're here to be in it. You're here to swim in this and to feel every bit of it. And to observe it.
But you don't have to perseverate in it, right? Yeah. You don't have to play in it.
Yeah, you don't have to play in it. In your emotions and feelings. You can observe.
Yes. So
that will pick up. Yeah.
That level of development, that level of conscious developing the self is so important right now, because
I can choose to be jealous, I can choose to be insecure, I can choose to be afraid. All, if you want to pick it up, you can have it, but you might want to put it down.
Yeah. And so for me, the way out of that is to really just ask myself, am I wearing my God goggles right now? It doesn't feel like I'm wearing my God goggles because I'm feeling really insecure, or I'm feeling really pissed off, or I'm feeling really like I want to pummel somebody. Okay, not going to pummel anybody. Right? If it's not in self-defense, this idea that we don't have to be slaves to our own emotions,
if they're even ours, because a lot of what we're feeling is just, woo, just passing through.
wave moving through. It's the wave moving through. So just also like this idea of multiple dimensions, like people can grasp like listening to the radio, but like do you ever think that like you don't see radio waves? You don't see that those are waves carrying information, that it's just waves carrying information. So imagining that in the 0 point, right, in the place of creation, in the place of how do we get to be co-creators, if we want to be creating the things that we want, which is why Alex keeps saying, what do you want? What do you want? Decide what you want and focus on what you want, because if you focus on what you don't want, you're helping what you don't want come into creation, because we are up leveling. We are moving through the fourth dimensions in terms of our ability to create. We are very powerful creators. And when we play, we can play as long as we want to in those really hard emotions. I'm not saying deny them. I'm not saying pretend they don't exist, but understand that you have a choice. You really do have a choice. And if you feel like you don't have a choice, then throw your fucking arms around yourself and cradle yourself the way you would cradle a child that doesn't know any better.
Self-resourcing.
Yes. Yes. Hold yourself and allow yourself to scream and cry. Allow yourself to beat the shit out of a pillow. Allow yourself to do what you need to do to move through and allow that out of your body so that you're not holding it in your body. So the work that I do with my tuning forks, right, is about finding these areas of incoherence around the body, because the idea is your consciousness isn't in your head. Your body is in your consciousness. So, and consciousness, because everything, all of the dimensions are like layered. Lori Ladd years ago, several years back, had amazing, beautiful drawings about explaining the dimensions and how they're all in the same space, because time space is an illusion. Everything exists in a 0 point. We're all occupying the same space. You just can't see this if you're not resonating, if there's not a part of you that is awakened to that frequency range, right? Some of us can see lower frequency ranges, or what's in the lower fourth dimension, because, and that's what's mostly scared us a lot. That's the stuff. And right now, with it being Halloween tomorrow, the veil between the worlds are very thin. So the ability to see those things that could be negative, right? However, and so this is the tricky point too, is like, well, at a certain level of conscious development, you understand that everything is just light. Everything is just God. Everything is just the plasma of the universe. It's just like a blank slate, like a blank canvas. When you look out into the night sky, you're seeing the void. That's the darkness. It's just the darkness. And then the light that you see, the galaxies, the stars that you see, is information. It's an information field. So information field plasma physics, right? It's just the idea. So there's the idea. So here we go into creation. There's that idea and then the emotion, right? And then there's that third part of creation. So what do you want? Getting in touch with what you really want and being able to figure out, develop yourself enough to play in truly what you want and not what you don't want. But because we've been so programmed, we are so programmed that so many of us are still reacting to those programs. We're reacting to the not looking right, not feeling right, not being right, having wrinkles, getting older, being too big, being too skinny, not like all of those physical things, and then beyond the physical things, the material things of like, I don't have enough this, I don't have enough that, I can't get this, I can't do, what I'm being prevented by. Focusing on all of that negative stuff is what we've been programmed with, so that we're creating more of it for ourselves, because we're such powerful creators. They're just kind of like laughing, pulling the strings, pulling the puppet strings as we continue the matrix for them. But we have the potential to not do that. We are smart enough to get to that place where at some point you actually recognize choice. And you utilize that choice by focusing on the things that you do want, and by lifting each other up, and by just loving on yourself and loving on everything, and understanding that everything is plasma. Initially, it's an idea. It's what we've created. We've created so much from a place of unconsciousness. Now we're waking up to our conscious selves, and we're starting to be able to create from a place of consciousness. So as we figure out what we want, and know what we want, and know what feels better, right? The idea of the golden age, the age of Aquarius, where time space is moved, where as the Milky Way galaxy is spinning, where we're spinning into these higher frequencies, these higher vibrations, all of that bliss really is possible if we allow it, and we allow the letting go of the programming that keeps us and for me, it's as simple enough as like, does this thought or this emotion make you feel good? No? Are you done yet?
Like anger, sometimes certain, or disappointments. And we just want to lament in it, and we want to keep repeating it, and we want to revolve the thoughts over and over again. And it's very hard to remain. That takes a lot of energy to remain angry with people.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Let it out. Let it go. And it's okay to express it, and it's okay to let it out, but the sooner you get it on out and let it go. I think a lot of people, what I see right now too, is when people don't resolve conflicts because they don't necessarily tell people like, that really pissed me off that you said or did this. And so you're holding this in until you have some type of outburst, and you react in some distorted fashion where you maybe overreact to something or misinterpret. Now you start to misinterpret everything because you've never gone through the trouble to resolve your conflicts and let somebody know, I don't like that. When it could have been so simple. I don't like that.
Yeah, but
like,
we don't.
I'm sorry. And then you're like, oh, yeah.
People don't get that if you react intensely, it's probably not about what the present situation. It's an older situation. I mean, and who has been saying this recently? I think they said it several times at the conference too, where it's like, what you perseverate on you're helping to create you don't see things as they are. You see things as you are. Right? So that frame of reference that we're holding is like to be able to just like press a pause button, decide that it doesn't feel good. If you need to like stay in bed for 2 days and cry, like stay in bed for 2 days and cry and let it out. But
don't always let it out on other people.
No, because that's
like when you go to work and someone's in a bad mood, and that's that transfer, and you're like, now you're feeling all funky. I couldn't say this. I had to let you finish it, but yeah, everything you're saying about it's just a lot of emotional intelligence. I'd like for you to talk one day about neurolinguistics because you're a translator and an interpreter and know sign language. I know you know a lot about the importance of neurolinguistics also, don't you? Maybe not in the scientific fashion of how you've studied it, but just how certain words strike different people, respecting their thoughts and cultures, because we've used different words in different languages, and it's not just, it's someone from South Carolina versus someone from Texas versus someone from California. We have totally different meanings to our words, and that leaves something, but then someone from Europe, Africa, or America, that's a whole different thing. So words are so important.
They are. And remembering being able to press the pause button and consider that the way that you understood something doesn't mean that's the way somebody intended it. And it can get tricky because there is like this, like on the one side, like, oh, I don't have to care about how I come across. I just get to say whatever I say, and it's your like too bad
That's your problem.
if you
Yeah.
misinterpreted me, right? But there is, for me, a level of maturity around understanding that I may be misinterpreted. And do I want to be misinterpreted? Do I care about somebody understanding me? Do I care about getting what I truly mean across? And also, am I not reactive, right? So understanding that the way that I'm perceiving things is a total filter. I have all of my own filters. So yes, the idea of each and every person, depending on the language and culture that they come from, the ethnicity that they come from, the neighborhood that they come from, all impacts the frame that you use, the glasses that you are using that are on your face, the frame that you understand the world through is constructed by multiple things. And the more you are exposed to other cultures and other languages and other ways of perceiving things, and being able to literally hold, like, if I'm understanding that or comprehending that, the four-legged being that walked behind me before, right? The four-legged furred being that walked behind me before in English is called a cat, right? In Spanish, del gato, or I don't know what it is in French, but die Katze in German, in sign language, that to say, no, it's a cat. Well, what is a cat? It's the combination of syllables of CAT. But what does that mean? It's just something that people who spoke the same language came up with to reference that thing. So it's that thing that it's representing. What's the thing that you're seeing in your mind? You're not seeing CAT, are you? So is the CAT important? No, it's being able to allow people, like, getting to that point of, like, how spoken language kind of screws things up because we're not communicating the full concept.
Right. It's just just a symbol to represent
We're using symbols.
what we know. I was telling people that's why we can misinterpret things when we read, because these are just placeholders and symbols
Yes.
that don't exactly express the full meaning. And then when we read in the first place, we read the first letter, the middle, and the end. And so, like a flashcard, we've learned to remember like a flashcard. This is not reading. Reading isn't what you think it is, because then now reading leaves interpretation. Now, what is my interpretation based on the symbols that I just read? And so I was just even saying how easy it is to misunderstand words or to misremember or to misinterpret. Yeah, based on that, because it's just a recall. It's just a symbol.
Yeah, until we get to the point where we're developed enough, where we've come online enough, where we've opened enough of our psychic communication, right? These are the potentials for misunderstanding. And it's why they say, right, the Tower of Babel, why that existed and why that was created, so that we would misunderstand each other, so that we would not be able to easily connect with one another, because we've been so programmed with the value judgments on ourselves and on each other and on groups and things and beings and everything. That level of deprogramming and defragging, in one way, what we're still all going through. So another couple things that I do, because this was a major tangent from telling you who am I and what do I do.
I know, because we're gonna have a whole part 3 sessions on with Ingrid. There's so much more that we were supposed to discuss. But I'll let you take about a minute more to, and then we're gonna end. But we are gonna have a part two where me, you, and Marvel discuss more about
Groovy.
who is Ingrid,
Yeah.
because she's special.
So I also I facilitate meditations and science meets spirit conversations for a nonprofit organization called the Lightfield Foundation, and they are a foundation that has created what they call conscious technology, and the foundation of those conscious technologies are a combination of frequencies of geometry, light, and sound. And so to assist people in connecting with their own higher consciousness, and developing their own consciousness is basically what all of their things do. And there's a number of different things that they have, but the originator of that was the gentleman that I quoted earlier, Mark Newkirk. He was initially a materials engineer, and using their technology helped shift me. It assisted in the shift for me from being really impatient with people, to having a lot more patience, and it continues to shift me and I feel like open my heart and open possibilities. And yeah, so those are all of the things that I do, and I do a number of different things for the foundation as a volunteer, and I also do work with their child organization that is a for-profit organization that creates the technologies. But it's just a family. So it's not like huge, it's just a family and everything is hand assembled. I work with them and I go to places to talk about their stuff, because of how much I believe in it and how awesome I think it is. And
How do we
Yeah.
find more information about those places? Can you just shout that out, and then maybe you'll send it to me on Telegram as well, so I could put it in the notes. But how do
Yeah.
we give us shout it out? Like, how do we find
So
out more?
lightfieldfoundation.com and Conscious Technologies LLC.com, I think it is. Conscious Technologies LLC. They're out of Rhode Island, and they create amazing, Ross heads Conscious Technologies, and he is an engineer and is like 4 generations of engineers. His dad was Mark Newkirk, who left his physical body in 2019. But he spent the last like 4 years going on a lecture circuit and talking about the change in understanding that we have about the physical universe, moving from Newtonian physics and understanding of the physical world, which is mostly where our schools and education system is stuck in, like this idea of just the physical world and not anything more than that. But the amazing experiments that have been done, 110, 120 years now, I think, of science, of what he calls cutting edge science. So quantum physics and plasma physics experiments to understand. And the conversations that I lead, that I really mostly facilitate, because I don't have all the wisdom, right? We watch the videos and then we talk about how we understand his information, and share with us. We sort of scaffold each other into further understanding around how to be more conscious co-creators of the worlds that we want to live in and the lives that we want to experience.
Okay, so I think you have enough to say about that we're gonna have a whole show talking about that.
So that, yeah,
This is an introduction to this beautiful woman that I met at the table with her beautiful sister, Ingrid. This is just an introduction to her. So because I am so limited on time,
I'm so sorry.
I love listening to you talk. It's so beautiful, and it's like little melodic explosions, like whoo, 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 of like, it's almost like boba tea, little boba.
Oh my God, I love bubble tea.
It's like boba, little bubbles popping, and it's like, oh, I love her language and the joy she has in her speech. So I'm gonna end it here, you guys, and we're gonna actually do a Q&A about this, because Marvel wasn't here to ask you more about grandmother spider and your journey during the ayahuasca too. So that's a whole thing. So I'm gonna end it here. and you have her information. And we're going to come back again really soon to talk to Ingrid about this. All right. Bye.